Hello, hello. Welcome to Natalie and Company. I am Natalie and you are the company that I do like to keep sometimes. This is my 2024 mid-year book Freakout tag. This is the tag that everybody knows that was created by Earl Grey Books and Is That Chummy? But I am actually using Gavin Reads It All's tweaked questions because he added a couple of other things that weren't in the original tag, and I really liked his list. How has your reading year gone so far? My 2024 reading year has been fun. I don't know if I could define it in any other word. It's just been thoroughly enjoyable. I think that I've really learned better how to deeply enjoy a book, how to sit with it, how to ponder it, how to take it with me when I put it down. That's been my goal over the past couple of years of reading, is to really deepen my reading experience. I think after about a year and a half of practicing that, I finally feel like I'm starting to see the real change in that, I think that I am reading deeply even when I'm not meaning to. It took a really long time to get here, but I'm really happy that I took that time and effort, because I do feel like I can read just more exponentially now that I got my brain into this mindset of always taking the characters into consideration and thinking about how a text makes me feel. It's just been really enjoyable. It's made it so that even non-enjoyable books are enjoyable, because I still feel like I'm learning about analysis tools and compare and contrast. I feel like I'm back in my own personal English class that I have forced myself to learn, and it's actually the greatest thing ever. Maybe that sounds boring to some people, but I think that it's really made me a better reader. As somebody who likes to talk to other people about books, I feel like it's important for me to continue to strive to be better for the people that watch me's sake, because you're giving up your time and consideration to watch me. The least that I can do is be aware of what I'm reading and conscious of the stories that I'm intaking on the things that I'm consuming. All in all, I have just been immensely enjoying my reading, no matter what it is, even the bad books. I have so much gratitude for that. Now, the things that you really care about. The best books that I have read so far this year, I have two. First things first, This Is How You Lose the Time War. Nobody is surprised that this is here, but I read this for my first time this year. Phenomenal. Way above and beyond anything that my expectations could have come up with. It holds so many multitudes in its tiny body. This Is How You Lose the Time War is a Romeo and Juliet-esque story about two women from different factions who begin writing each other letters and find themselves feeling like star-crossed lovers. The prose in here is absolutely ridiculous. I just found out that Amal El-Motar just announced his debut solo book, and I'm super excited about that because this was so phenomenal. It was truly so phenomenal. They had the capability of stringing together sentences that almost made me feel like I was sticking a Q-tip in my ear. They were the sentences were cleaning my brain as they were going in. It was such an amazing reading experience. I did recommend it to my friend, and she only read the audiobook and she still had a good time. She just said it was harder to consume and absorb, so I would definitely recommend the physical copy. I did both. I love to pick up the book and then listen to the audiobooks read it to me as I read it, and so I did both. But I feel like this is definitely a book where the physical copy really enhances the experience, because they are written letters, and to read the letter before you is very different than just listening to it. The other favorite of the year so far, Bunny by Mona Awad. Did I expect this to be here? Absolutely not. Did I expect to become a bunny girl? Absolutely not. Because I can be a hater sometimes. I have this drive within me to stay as far away from anything that is super popular for some stupid reason. I don't know. And so no, I didn't want to join the bandwagon, but literally Bunny was so good, I couldn't not. I've never not thought about Bunny. It's just, Bunny was such a perfect balance of all of the elements of storytelling that I love, which is like mystery and intrigue, mysticism, and political commentary, like all wrapped up in literally like the most beautiful packaging that you've ever seen. It's so sadistic in like the best way. The satirical writing is some of the best satirical writing I've ever read my whole entire life. And I feel like Bunny is the type of book that I could talk with anybody who's read it for hours. And like the lasting power of a book, I just think says so much about it. And Bunny is the type of book that you could read in English class and there would be benefit, and there would be, you know, people might even enjoy it because I think it's so well composed and all of its pieces and parts fit so perfectly together. Bunny is the story of a girl who is mysteriously invited to the Bunnies, the popular girl clique at her college campus, and she is now about to plunge into their abyss. And things go so crazy from there. It's better just to go in without knowing anything other than that, I would think, because I think the expectations are probably where you would get really messed up with this book. You have to let it carry you where it wants to carry you in order for the themes to really reveal themselves, I think. 5 stars. Absolutely. So amazing. What's the best book I've reread this year? And that is Pure Nessie by Susanna Clark. This is a new favorite, an old favorite, I would say, because when I first read it, similar to Bunny, it was one that I never stopped thinking about and still didn't for like the 2 years since I reread it recently. And in rereading it, I've rediscovered so much of the peace and the sorrow that are held within these pages that like it just feels like so similar to my own spiritual experiences. To see them reflected here is so surreal, honestly. I mean, but that's like what the whole book is it's really surreal. Pure Nessie is the story of a man who lives in the house, which is a house with forever going on hallways filled with room after room of statues. And the only people that live in this entire world are him and the other. In a search for great knowledge that the other is trying to endeavor, Pure Nessie uncovers layer after layer of hidden meaning within the house. And it's also a story that's like mainly focused about like morality and what morality means when there's no society to form the moral obligations around it, and what it means to be a good person despite their like your actions having almost no consequences on other people, only you. And also I just like, I love the writing style in this. It's so, absolutely a comfort read for me. And I know that that's strange, but it's like House of Leaves is if House of Leaves was comforting instead of scary. I know that is like the weirdest description ever, but I truly feel so connected to this book. I love it. I picked it for book club pick and it got picked and we read it for book club. That's why I reread it. And it was a great book club pick as well. I think it just created such interesting conversations about, you know, the things that happened, and everybody really, really enjoyed it because I think no matter what type of reader you are, this is an objectively good book. Maybe it's not as fast as you want it to be. Maybe the beginning is a little boring, but like this book as an entirety is a supreme book. Like, it's so well written. All of the components fit together so perfectly. Oh, it truly is an objectively good book, in my opinion. I mean, that's so fun. Like, I know that's counterintuitive to say, like, in my opinion, after objectively, but I truly feel that this is an objectively good book, because that's how good it is. This is going up on my favorite shelf now. I'm literally not getting up to get the first of this because it's all the way across my apartment. I'm not getting up. What is the best manga you've read in 2024 so far? My favorite. My faves. Nozaki-kun. Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. I have already read Nozaki-kun once, but I have always just so deeply loved this series. I think that it's so gay. Like, there are mangas that have gay people in them. This is so subtly gay that it would be like a comfort to emerging queer babies, in my opinion, because it's so much so about how the characters toe the line of both their gender and their sexuality, and they do it so naturally, as if it is natural, because it is. It's done so beautifully that these characters feel so realistic. It's truly heartwarming. I am a bitter ass, dark ass, sad ass bitch. On Storygraph, my chart of like moods that I like, it's like dark, adventurous, and mysterious. Like, I'm not a heartwarming reader, but I will stand Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun forever. I will keep reading these forever, because I think that they're so adorable. I love every single one of the characters. Every single one of the characters goes through so much growth, and so much growth that's like never weird, it's never creepy, it's never anything but just realistic to what it's like to be a human and interact with the definitions the society has given you for things, and how to toe the lines in those situations, how to love yourself despite there being complications. Like, I will go on forever and ever just like loving this manga, because it's the only romance manga that I ever want to read for the rest of my life. What is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2024? I hope I said 2024 the rest of the video before this. Absolutely We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faizal. This, along with the first book, is a duology to compare to all duologies, and that's why the sequel I think is so good, because it takes so much action and so many things that happen in this book, and it really brings them all together in such a beautiful, striking, and very sexy way. I think you get to have your cake and eat it too with this one, because there is so much tension and drama, and their stakes are so high. And even despite all of that, the Hafsa Faizal still finds time to develop and give her characters the moments that they need. And I just think it's so good. I literally, one of my favorite fantasy series that I've read in years, absolutely years. I love her. We'll get to that in a second though. What is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to? So I have a couple here. I have A Tempest in Tea by Hafsa Faizal, because of course, which I believe is like a Victorian age, kind of like Sherlock Holmesy kind of mystery, fantasy-ish, like light fantasy maybe. I also want to read the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, because I really did love A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and I've heard that the reappearance of Rachel Price is definitely more geared towards adults, and I'm really, really excited to read something from Holly Jackson that is written for adults, because the YA part was the only real issue that I ever had with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I actually have the audiobook. It's literally sitting there and waiting for me on my phone. And speaking of audiobooks that are sitting there waiting for me, The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. I loved The Paris Apartment, right? And I love The Paris Apartment so much that I read Lucy Foley's other two books. And because those books came out before, They were so not as good as The Paris Apartment, and I was so devastated. So the fact that this is a new one, I'm hoping that The Midnight Feast will be even better than The Paris Apartment, because I would love that. And also The Midnight Feast is a fire title. So one of my most anticipated books for the second half of the year is that new ML Rio novella that's coming out, Graveyard Shift. I think it sounds really, really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to reading something by ML Rio that is not about Shakespeare. Who knows? Maybe I'll stick it in this one too. What is the worst book that you've read so far in 2024? Here's the thing. I went on a little foray into Lisa Jewell and realized that I really hated her books because it's not mysterious to me. And it's just to me. Her books are really, really not for me. But also the thing was, I wasn't necessarily expecting to enjoy them very much. So like it kind of evened out. Expectations and reality, right? It kind of evened out. There wasn't that much of a difference. But I did also reread the Uglies series by Scott Wisterfield, Uglies, Pretties, and Specials. And the last book of that series was horrible. He shoved the things that should have been in the plot of the entire book in like the last like 60 pages, and just spent so much time on so many irrelevant things. It was truly a horrible ending to the series. It made me glad that when I was young I had never read the end of this series, because it would have ruined my nostalgic feelings of it. It did ruin my nostalgic feelings of it now, but I didn't need that added weight when I was young. Okay, what is your biggest disappointment of the year so far? Honestly and truly, Perfume by Patrick Susskind. I just feel like every time somebody has described this book to me, it has sounded like I would really like it and I would really enjoy it, but I didn't. It was fine for 80%, right? It was literally fine. Like there was nothing that was special to me. There was nothing that really stood out. It just kind of felt like your average, almost like nature writing, like Walden or Thoreau or something, because he talks about like the interaction of the natural things and stuff. I'm not gonna get into it, but then in the ending, it just felt like it didn't make any sense to me. I had like the only reason that I was able to come up with some sort of reasoning for why this book ended the way that it did was because the author gave me a 1-page explanation a couple pages before the end. Had he not done that, I literally would have been clueless on how to interpret this book or what the events in it meant. And I think that is like kind of cringe, because like, I don't know, I feel like you shouldn't throw things in the end of your book for shock value. I don't know. It left me feeling so bewildered. I really didn't hate it though. I didn't hate it. This makes it seem like I hated it, but I really didn't. I just thought it was so weird, and I had such high hopes for it that it was disappointing, having it not be kind of like what I was thinking or what I was wanting. Perfume, the story of a murderer who has a really good sense of smell. So if you want to read a whole entire book with really vivid descriptions of smell and making perfume and the things that go into making perfume, honestly, you'd probably like this. Like I said, it's not bad. It just left me feeling so bewildered. And then the other one is Last to Leave the Room by Caitlin Starling, which was so trash. The marketing for that book, the cover of that book should not look like it does, because it is incorrectly marketed with this cover. It does nothing similar to what the cover looks like happens in this book. And so I spent the whole 11-hour book waiting for something like that to happen, and it never did. And instead, it was long-winded, it was unentertaining. It literally took 80% of the novel to get to anything that was like truly action, like the tiniest, slowest progress, and you're like, when is something going to happen? And like, I think that the pieces and the ideas there were really interesting. It was really intriguing. The concept behind it, and the concept behind it, like all of the events that were happening, it just fucking sucked to read because of how slow it was. Super disappointing, super bad. Don't read that book, please, for your own sake. What is the biggest surprise of the year that you've had so far? My biggest surprise is definitely Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because it's literally won the Booker Prize. Like, they decided this was a good book, right? It's just so vivid in its imagery of authoritarianism and the encroachment of authoritarianism on people's daily lives. It's so real, and it's a scenario which I feel like so many people in modern day can literally envision themselves in. And the characters in it are so real and make just so many mistakes. I mean, but like, that's also what it's about, is about the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to have a choice be wrong, and how sometimes even that freedom to have a choice be incorrect can be taken away from you if you don't use your opportunities to make choices when they're presented to you. Prophet Song is the story of a family in an increasingly authoritarian Ireland, and the progression that the family goes through as things escalate, rebellions happen, you know, powers go out, bombings happen. Like, there's so much that goes on in this book that's all viewed through this lens of this family with children and their experiences as mostly middle class. But I think the darkness of it, even though they are middle class, makes it just, like, you know, that much more darker. Who is your new favorite author? Debut or debut? Hafsa Faizal. Hafsa Faizal. Miss Hafsa Faizal. I believe in Hafsa Faizal supremacy. Nobody will ever convince me that her and her husband are not the cutest couple that's ever existed in this entire world. That's probably why her romance is so good, because she literally has the cutest, like, most adorable relationship that's ever existed, and also is just an amazing writer who said one person can have that many good traits, because it's Hafsa Faizal, and I'm going to be a forever stan for the rest of my life. This next one, who is your next fictional crush? I don't really feel like I form fictional crushes anymore. Maybe it's just because I'm in a long-term relationship. I don't know. It's not like I'm not a dreamer. It's not like I don't like to fantasize here and there. I would say a favorite character. I promise this is the last time that I'll talk. But Zafira, I love her. Her battle between good and evil, like between the darker parts of herself and what it means to just, like, continually fight for good, because it's not like you one day decide to be good and then you're good for the rest of your life. You have to make that choice to be a good person every day that you live. And I think that Zafira, the main character of We Hunt the Flame, just does such an amazing job. I just love her. I just loved seeing every moment of her story and hearing her internal dialogue and her struggle. Maybe since I've talked about this series so much, I can actually tell you what it's about. We Hunt the Flame, We Free the Stars. Fantasy duology about a... Oh my god, my camera literally overheated. That is how hot it is in here. This is a fantasy novel set in an Arabian inspired setting where the magic has basically, like, abandoned this world, and they go on a quest to try and bring the magic back. And that's a very, very, very basic synopsis, because so much stuff happens. Specifically, the enemies to lovers. The best enemies to lovers I've ever read in my whole entire life. Nothing will ever compare. I literally mean it. What book has made you cry so far this year? That would probably be Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Seanan McGuire, which is the ninth book in the Wayward Children series. Love the Wayward Children series. I would literally read them forever. I would let Seanan McGuire write as many as she wants to, even though I know that she is ending probably like sooner rather than later. So, and it's just so sad, and there's, like, retribution and heartbreak and acceptance. Like, oh, that one really hits. It really does. What is the most beautiful book that you bought this year? I have two for this category because one of them is kind of a cheat, because I technically bought it last year, but I received it this year. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Illumicrate edition. Of course, they just are perfect. The map of Camp Half-Blood is so perfect. I love the way that all of the covers look. And I've always hated like every other design for Percy Jackson that has ever existed. But I don't have to worry about that anymore because I have these. So happy with them. Like I said, I did buy them last year. Truly want this prettiest book that I bought this year. I'd probably say Dante's Paradiso, but this is the version that's illustrated by Sandel Burke. And it is the most beautiful because it has just the most beautiful art in it. The cover is so beautiful and it wraps around to the back. And I didn't know that this version of Dante's entire set existed, and they do, so I have to get Dante's Inferno and Dante's Purgatorio before I can actually even read this, but that is okay because this is gorgeous, and the fact that I will get to own 2 more copies, like the set, is going to be so beautiful together. I'm so excited. What are the books that I need to read by the end of the year? That would be the rest of my Palestinian collection that I have. I have 3 more books left on my entire shelf of everything that I own. I think I am going to finish all 3 of these up before I pick up some more, but I do have some in mind that I am hoping to pick up maybe even before the end of the year. I'm already halfway through Minor Detail right now. So the rest of these 3, Minor Detail by Adonias Shibli, Ever Since I Did Not Die by Rami Al-Ashek, and The Light in Gaza, which is the collection. That's really all that I need to read by the end of the year because I don't really have any goals. I've been like doing reading challenges and using them as excuses to pick different things off of my shelf to read more of it, right? But I haven't really like set a real goal like, oh, I need to read, or like, oh, these are the books I want to read by the end of this year or something. Like, I've really been finding the good middle ground between mood reading and planning my reading in a really great sweet spot right now where I just am funneling myself read after read after read, making it so easy for me to pick it up. So number 16, what is my favorite video that I've made so far this year? And that would be an ode to my van. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. It is very different from literally anything else on my channel. In 2019, I bought a van, and he was one of my best friends for 5 years, and recently I sold him. I took so much of my experience of the 5 years that I spent on that van project and all of the love and growth that I received from it, and I put it all together in that video. So I'm really proud of it. It's a little piece of my heart, honestly and truly, out there for anybody to see. So if you want to check it out, I will link it here because I think that if you want to get to know me, that would probably be one of the easiest ways to do it. Any upcoming videos that you're excited to make? Yes. Romance. I didn't say anything. If you know me, I'm not a romance reader, so we're gonna try and melt my cold heart. Do I regret that decision already? Yes. Am I going to renege on it? Absolutely not, motherfucker. Who do you think I am? And then any channel goals by the end of the year? Mostly just want to keep growing, meeting more people and making more friends. That's always the number one goal. But 250 subscribers by the end of the year would be nice. It's 60 subscribers away. So if you're out there and you're watching this, go ahead and hit subscribe because I would love to have you back here. I would love for you to keep me company again. I really would. That's a great segue into saying goodbye. Saying thank you so much for watching. Truly. I find purpose in what I do here, even when only 18 people see it. And I've never had something in my life like that before. So thanks for hanging out, keeping me company. I will see you next time. I hope you have a good night.